Okay, good morning. So we're up to Reish Mem Hey in the first Sif still. Yesterday we did the Mechaba, the Shit of the Mechaba. Today we're going to do the Shit of the Remah. And this is talking about the very common shaila. If you've got a business partnership with a non-Jewish person, how do you arrange the Shabbos earnings? What's the story? So the Mechaba, let's read the Mechaba again just to get back into it. Yisrael ve'enu Yehudi sheyesh lahem sodeh oitanu omerchatz Chaim shamayim b'shutfus. There's a joint enterprise. Oishehem shutfin b'chanus b'schera. Or there's some sort of they share. They have a shop and they own a shop together. Im hisnu mitchila b'shosh bonu lishtatif. If they make a t'nai at the outset, sheyeh schar Shabbos le'enu Yehudi levadei, that the non-Jewish person gets the schar Shabbos, im ma'atim harbe, whatever it is, little or lot, u'schar yom echad k'neged yom Shabbos l'Yisrael levadei, and the Yisrael gets another day in lieu of that, then mutter, that's okay. But if they didn't agree this in the outset, then k'shevo lechalek noitel en Yehudi schar haShabbos kulam, v'ashar cholkim oisai. The way it needs to work is that the Yehudi gets the schar Shabbos, whatever earnings were accrued on Shabbos, and the rest, the other 6 days, is divided equally. That's if they did not make it tonight. V'im lo hoya schar Shabbos yodua, and if the Shabbos profit is not clear, is not known, then what you do is Yitla Yehudi levada shvius haschar v'cholkim hashar. Then you just take 1/7 of the week's earnings, and then the rest you split. So ad kan, that is the Mechaba. Now the Remah is going to be more mekel. And we said in the Hakdama yesterday, at the beginning of the Sif, of this Simon, that this Machlokes is based on the Machlokes Rosh and Rambam, and as Kedarkom B'Kodesh, that the Mechaba will follow the Rambam, and the Rosh will follow, and the Remah will follow the Rosh. Yeah, just as an aside, very briefly, in the Hakdama to the Shulchan Aruch, the Rambam says how's he going to decide who to paskin like? So he says he follows the three great Amudei Horos of the Rishonim. Who are they? The Rambam, the Rif, and the Rosh. So therefore, whenever there's a machlekas, you follow the majority. The trouble is, you've got an inbuilt Sfardi majority. You've got the Rambam and the Rif. The Remah comes along and redresses the balance and incorporates not just the Shittas HaRosh, but also Shittas Rashi and Tosfos, etc. So therefore, this is a typical example of where the Mechaba is following the Rambam and the Remah is following the Rosh. Okay, now let's do the Rosh. Hagah. V'yesh matirin haschar b'di'eved afilu lo hisnu. There are those who are matir, the profit, b'di'eved, even if they didn't make it tonight. V'chil kustom, they just split it. In a situation of financial loss, then you can rely on this. Now this is very important. That's when each person is working on his day. Yeah, that you work Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, I work Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you work Shabbat, whatever it is. If it's a proper business partnership where they're both working the whole time together, over Shabbos, Oisek Ein Yehudi Levada, and not just on Shabbos, the Ein Yehudi is working himself. Then you can split it, no problem. The Ein Yehudi Adaita Nafshi Kavit, because in that situation, the Ein Yehudi is doing it purely for himself. The Ein HaYisrael Nene b'Melachte b'Shabbos Kimishen HaMelachim Muteles Olav Lasos, and Yisrael is not benefiting because it's not on him to do it. You should only do it b'havla with the rest of the days. Okay, so let's just explore that a bit more. V'chol kustam. So this is going on Sif Cotton Ches. Yeah, so the Remah says, Yesh matir nascha b'diavad afilu lo hisnu v'chol kustam. Hainu. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Shebeshas chaluka lo hiske lo Yisrael es ha-Shabbos. That at the time of dividing up the profits, they didn't mention the Shabbos. Loimar, as if to say, Atzot titol keneged yom amolecha b'Shabbos. You take your Shabbos earnings. Va'ani etol keneged yom amoli b'chol. And I did on Sunday in lieu of that I'll take that. Elachol kustom b'shava. They just split. V'gam mayri shaloi omoloi b'tchila. And also we're talking about a situation where they did not say at the outset, Avoid atzot b'Shabbos. Va'ani avoid kenegdecha b'chol, that you work Shabbos and I'll take the Sundays, take home in lieu of that. It's just that the Ein Yehudi is doing it himself without any instruction. Because if you instruct the guy to work on Shabbos, The Goli dated the Shlucha Hoya al Shabbos, because that's clear that you're making him a Shliach, V'hu Amal Kenegda B'chol, and I'm making up for it by working in the weekday. Kivin Shet B'tchila Hutl al Shnehem Yachad, because initially that was the agreement. V'da, the Kol Hasif Hazeh Mairi, Sha'Yisrael Ve'en Yehudi Heim Shutfim B'guf Hatanu V'Merchatz. They actually jointly own the physical entity of the tanur, of the merchatz, whatever the business circumstance is. If he doesn't own it, but the Yisrael alone owns it, it's just that the Ein Yehudi is makabel, a share of the profits, then that's much worse. Why? Because since the goof of the tanur, let's say, belongs to the Yisrael, it's as if you're renting out your tanur to this Ein Yehudi on Shabbos, that he's heating up the oven, he's cooking and baking for profits. Yom echad shechol, and the Yisrael works 1 weekday. Also little schar Shabbos, and that's just pure schar Shabbos. That if the Ein Yehudi has no ownership of the joint business items, then you should be machmir in that situation. And Dafka we're talking about a situation where there's no havla. That it's all swallowed up and there's just one lump sum. Then shari. Then that would be okay if they agree like that at the outset. There are some achronim who hold that you don't need that the Ein Yehudi has no chelek in the business assets, given shehu b'havlo, because the whole thing is b'havlo anyway, and therefore that makes it much easier. Okay, so the Remah says. Adds this important qualification that b'chol zeh, he says le'mari b'shutfus shekol echad oisek b'yoymei. But if shnehem asukim b'yachad, they're just both working together in the shop or whatever, and then they split the profit afterwards, then the Remah says mutar lachlik imei al kol haschar. Says the Mishnah Berurah Tes, the Oz given the Yisrael oisek kol yom echad, in a situation where they're not doing it jointly, but each one is working on their day, that's much more problematic. Havlei in Yehudi kashluche lasis kol yom haShabbos b'shvilei. It's as if the Ein Yehudi, the guy, is going to be working as a shliach for the Yisrael on Shabbos. And that's why you need the Tanai v'chanal. V'kos v'achronim duad dinim Ein Yehudi nosen moes l'Yisrael l'isasik bohem b'chol. So too, if the Ein Yehudi gave money to the Yisrael to use during the week, or b'Shabbos misasik hu, and on Shabbos the Ein Yehudi is using himself, to also the Yisrael the couple menu schar min arevach sheneded b'Shabbos. Elim kein yasne Yisrael imay meikara shelo yemutel olav yom haShabbos klal, that it's not on him to do it. The ilav hochi, because otherwise kim da meloch azos mitelas Yisrael then Yehudi yoseh b'shluchus osa, because otherwise really it means that he is responsible to do it, the Yisrael, and I'm asking the Ein Yehudi to do it, and therefore he becomes mashliach, and then it's a problem. Okay, so then the Remah added that if the Yisrael and the Ein Yehudi are working together, they on all the days, then and then it's just the Ein Yehudi is working on Shabbos, then it's okay because it's adaited enough shika of it. Explains the Mishnah Berurah Sif Katan Yud. The Yisrael, bishvil chelkai, he's working for his own chelek. The havelei ka'aris to muta medina, because then it's like an oris arrangement. And therefore that's mutar meikadin. V'chanal b'reishim and reishim gimel to kivin shulakech v'peiros ovid adaited and avshei v'chelach Yisrael nishkach memela, and you sort of you ignore the share that the Yisrael is going to get. V'uadin kan and a desham also b'tanu mishumar asayin she'im schiru. There we just said that people will know that the tanu belongs to Yisrael. It's marasayin v'kan leka marasayin takol yodin sheish b'len Yehudi chelek, but everyone knows that the Ein Yehudi has got a chelek in it. Okay, so there are a couple of very interesting points here. What about the following situation? What if your shutfus is not with an Ein Yehudi, but it's with a Ben Eretz Yisrael, and you happen to own a restaurant in Tel Aviv or in Yerushalayim, and the problem is Yom Tov Sheni. So how do you deal with that? So if you look at number 11, V'chein ben chutz la'aretz hashoy be'eretz Yisrael v'day telachsa lechutz la'aretz shedina liyom sheni keben chutz la'aretz. So he happens to be living in Eretz Yisrael, but he's only there for a few months, and he's planning on going back to chutz la'aretz, so he's got to keep 2 days yontif. V'naseh shutuf b'chanus in ben Eretz Yisrael, and he owns a shop with a proper Eretz Yisrael resident. For Kosov Abirka Yosef, Shemutel ben Eretz Yisrael, Limkar b'yontav sheni, b'chanus hamashutefes, Afal pish ben chutz la'aretz also Limkar b'yontav sheni, v'lachlik is aschar b'shava. They can the ben Eretz Yisrael can work the shop and they can share the profits. Mikiven sheshneim oiskim b'chanus b'yachad tomed, because the rest of the week they're working on the shop together. Or kafisha psak harmol in Yisrael and Nochri. According to the heter just now of the Remah, that they can make this arrangement, they can rely on the same heter, exactly the same heter. Even though the Mechaba doesn't talk about this particular thing, it's the chiddush of the Remah, that it's what he is moisif, that when they work together fully, that it's no problem. He says, and it's not that the Mechaba would disagree with that. The Mechaba may well agree with this thing, that if they're both working on the shop the whole time, and it's just that the Akum is working on Shabbos, then even maybe the Mechaba would come to permit it. Okay, that's point number one.
I assume the same thing would be if somebody, if the shutz of, let's say, a Ben Chutz La'aretz who lives in a Chutz La'aretz.
Yeah, L'chaira. No, Lav Dafke is, why he says he's there and he's coming back, I don't know. Yeah. But now, number 12 is also very interesting. The question is, what if you have this joint enterprise? We spoke about it before, at the beginning of the simon, I think, or the previous simon, but what percentage of ownership is it 50-50? How does it work? So number 12, he discusses that. He says, even if the Ein Yehudi only owns a third or a quarter of the whole enterprise, they can still share the profit equally. Even if the majority ownership is the Israel, that's not a problem. And that's what we spoke about at the beginning of the simon. Now, also, number 13 is very interesting. He says, "V'dafka k'shegam hanochri." Is this on this? Have we done this yet? No, we haven't done this yet. Let's go back to the Mishnah Berurah, Yud Aleph. So this is going on the end of the Remah, that if they work together 6 days a week, and then the Ein Yehudi works on Shabbos, then that's okay, because Adaita D'Nafshi Kavit, the guy is working on Shabbos because he's going to get a share of the profits, and he's doing it for that. That's his motivation. The Ein HaYisrael nene b'melachta b'Shabbos, and therefore he's not really benefiting in that respect. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Rotzaloma, of course he's benefiting. The Hana also who rak Hana Memela, he's sort of vicariously benefiting. The point is that what is the motivation of the Ein Yehudi who's working on the Shabbos? He knows that he's going to get profit from it. Yeah, he'll only get 50% profit or 30% profit or whatever it is, but that's what's pulling him. He's not doing it as a shliach for the Yisrael, therefore we're not worried. Because there's no obligation on the Yisrael to do it, and therefore they both, during the week, they both work at it. I can't force him to work. And therefore certainly the Ein Yehudi is doing it for his own benefit, and therefore there's no problem. Look at number 13, interesting. We're talking about a situation where also the Nochri is not mechuyev to do it. But if they had agreed that we work 6 days a week together, and you work on Shabbos, and you've got to work on Shabbos, then I'm not doing it because I'm pulled by the profit that I could earn, and that's the whole heter of the Remah, but I'm doing it because of the contractual obligation. Then he becomes a shliach, and that's bad news. Etc. Okay, so you can't be. You're doing. It's got to be that the Yisrael, that the Ein Yehudi is doing it because he's adaita d'nafshe means that I'm going to get some profit out of it, not because I'm contractually obligated to be in this shop on Shabbos or whatever the arrangement is. Okay, but havlo.
What's the downside of him being contractually obliged?
Because then I'm doing it, because then it becomes back to the shlichus problem. Then I'm doing this because this is the contractual agreement, I'm not doing it because of the profits, and the whole heta, the whole svara of Adaita Denafshe is just blown. Bahavla, the Iloi Hachi Mechzik Shabbos. But otherwise it looks like Schar Shabbos if it wasn't sort of done Bahavla. Let's just do base quickly, it's a short one. Which is what the Remah, so the Mishnah Berurah mentioned in the Hakdama of the Siman, Heicha Shehisnu B'tchila. When they initially agreed at the outset, Im Achakach B'shas Chalukah Nisratza in Yehudi Lechalek B'Shava Mutza. If they later then decide just to split, they're not going to just keep to the agreement, and rather they'll just let's just go 50-50 or whatever. That works. That's okay. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Nisratza in Yehudi Rotzalema. We agreed, whatever we stipulated, whatever it was, a little or a lot, and then at the time we just agreed to split it 50-50 or whatever it was. We don't say that it turns out that he was a shliach for the Shabbos work. It's just that he's giving him a gift. We decide to split it differently. We get £1,000 profit this week. We'll just split it. Because initially, since they made it Tanai, that the Nochri, that the Ein Yehudi will have the Shabbos earnings. That he was, it was just like a stum agreement. It wasn't through the working out the profit of the 2 days. They just split it. But if they do a proper cheshbon, at the time of dividing it up, they say as follows: At shokalta b'Shabbos kuf zuzi, you earned £100, let's say on Shabbos. V'ana shakil b'yom chol nun zuzi, and on Sunday I took £50. Malei li hachisoran. Make it up for me and give me, we need to split it, and therefore it's 75 each. You give me £25 of the extra, or extra, whatever it is. So the best thing is just to put it in a pot, split it equally and finish. But if you say, right, you got £100 on Shabbos, and I got this amount, and therefore we need to equalize it, etc., then that's a problem. Okay, we'll leave it there.
Sure.